knowing that you wanted to act? Is it sort of a fuzzy origin story?
It was a sort of a rather sort of uncomfortable mix of unbelievable vanity, sort of, oh, they're all looking at me, I love it.
But you're not completely comfortable with it, right? There's sort of
No, and a righteous love of literature and storytelling and the world of the imagination, and really, so it was a combination of those two things. But my very first role, which I remember to this day, I had no lines, which is always a very good thing, incidentally, not have any lines. But I had a gorgeous costume. Good combination. I was playing the Virgin Mary.
Did that come naturally?
You were 6. I was 6. Yes, I was 6. I do remember my costume. It was blue with stars on. It was so gorgeous. And I was so good at, playing the Virgin Mary. I was taken around from classroom to classroom to sort of sit and... And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Your devotion towards your career was something that, or your passion was instilled early by your mother too, again, ahead of her time. She was just sort of very worried that you would succumb to romance, get married, sort of get locked in that. And that was never, ever your ambition, which was also ahead of your time as well. Was this always something you knew and carried with you?
Yes, I mean, I think we are all the products of our parents. And I was the product of two people, both who really believed in women being financially independent.
Right.
And really believed that we should, not just as women, but as people, be financially independent. They grew up in their youth, when they were young, in London. It was the Depression. They had to go through those terrible days. Then they went through the Second World War. Then they went through the post-Second World War. So their whole youth, that whole 20 years of their youth, from 20 to 40, was very, very difficult, physically, financially, just really, really tough. So to have financial independence was all important to them. And they wanted my sister and I to be teachers, and I did actually train as a teacher. My sister became a teacher and was a wonderful teacher her whole life, but that was sort of not what I wanted to do.
The sort of story of Hollywood is, when you hit a certain age, you run out of film roles, that it's become slim pickings. You're the mom, then you're the grandmother, but it seems like you have just had this bountiful, obviously, completely, thank God for all of us that you have, but did you ever come across that a dearth of roles after Jane Tennyson, or did it just sort of open up slowly?
No, I didn't. No, it was the opposite, actually, honestly. My roles became much more interesting after I hit 40 than they were before. And I think that's still the case now. If you're lucky enough, if you can manage to sort of hang on in there. What I did, and I think it was helpful, was every 4 years I'd go back, at least 3 or 4 years, I'd go back to the theatre, because I started off in the theatre. Theatre was my love and my ambition. What really was in the theatre, and I made sure that I always went back to the theatre, and I think that sort of just helped deepen my whole career. I somehow, and made people think of me in a certain way as well.
There is such a resolve and strength in each of your characters, and is it something that has come natural to you in a way? This presence, this determination, this quiet ferocity.
I like that. Quiet ferocity is very nice. I like that. But no, as people will always say, the interesting thing in any role is the complexity of the character, and the complexity always comes through their weaknesses. So what you might call a strong role is actually a role that's full of weakness and vulnerabilities and ambivalence. Those are the best roles. A strong role, is boring.
Right.
you want, we're all vulnerable, complex, insecure people, all of us, and you want to, that's our job as actors, is to reflect the nature of humanity. So you want that to be as complex as possible.
I was with the audience, which you won a Tony for, playing Elizabeth II. You had a resistance to playing her again, but it was almost like you couldn't say no, right? Was that
I
it?
couldn't say no.
It was all of your favorite, amongst your favorite people.
And the play was so brilliant. The play was so great. No, I went to the read-through absolutely determined to say at the end of the read-through, I asked if we could do a reading of the play before we, committed to anything. And I went to the read-through thinking, I'm going to do the read-through and then I'm going to say, I'm really sorry, but I don't think this is the right thing for me. I can't do this again.
And her character, you were on stage for almost the...
For 2 hours, yes, non-stop, yes, absolutely. And I walked in and there was this amazing team of people, theatre people, which you guys won't probably know, but, Peter Morgan, the writer, Stephen Daldry, the director, Bob Crowley, the designer.
One of your favorites.
Well, brilliant, brilliant designer. I mean, this was the cream of British theatre people. And I thought, and you're going to walk away from this? Are you mad? So I knew by the end of the read-through I was going to have to do it.
And you said it opened up all these parts for you. One of the things, we were just sort of chit-chatting backstage, and Carol, when she was mentioning the work I've done, I've looked into gender discrimination in Hollywood with the ACLU, and you said, God, gender. And I thought, because you've had to field all these questions. So, Helen, how do you feel?
It's a little bit. I'm so thrilled that finally it's in the conversation. Women have been trying to have this conversation for an awfully long time.
Right.
A very, very long time. And finally, the conversation is beginning to be heard and repeated in the media and talked about. I just hope it continues.
Whatever way you look at it, you're collaborating with the writer and the producer and the other actors and everyone, the cameraman, the lighting. Yeah, and so getting on the set, and I like a laugh, but sometimes it's not appropriate. But it's very, very important to connect with everybody.
Who's the unsung hero on the set? I think the continuity. I couldn't bear to do that job. I think it's brilliant.